For those of you who've forgotten, I'm Projeni Pather, and it's really, really great to see you all again, to see you joining us. It's really wonderful to have you. I know it's been ages since we've all connected. We've really missed interacting with you at our exhibitions this year, and that's been tragic for all of us. But unfortunately, as you know, due to all the government restrictions and the pandemic that we've been in, business has been halted. And this, however, forces us to look at business differently. And we still need to survive. All of your businesses still need to survive. And as you know, exposure marketing for the past 16 years, you know, it's not, we've always said to you, it's not all about exhibiting at our shows. It's about what you do outside those shows, outside those 3 or 4 days, because it is very important for your business to succeed and to still be relevant within the greater market outside that exhibition hall. And in line with that, we realized that you still need the interaction, with our market. And we know that it is crucial for you to keep engaging with this parenting community in South Africa. And you would have probably seen our team, and I hope you have, and you probably would have heard of them in some way or the other, either by an online meeting, which we've all disliked a lot, but we've gotten used to over the past 6 months, or a phone call or an email. And we hope you've been keeping track with us. And when you're doing something new, I hope you are getting in touch with my team and letting them know what your business is doing and how we can help. Because as you know, over the past 16 years, we have grown an amazing online community that is extremely beneficial to your business. And this year particularly, when there is no other means of advertising your business from a face-to-face perspective, this community has been crucial to you. And we've done some wonderful projects already. We're very excited. We hope you've seen them. If you follow us online, you would have seen the wonderful projects that we've done with a few of our clients already. We've kept interacting with our audience. The mums have been talking, and they have had nothing else to do but talk to us, and they want to share and they want to communicate. So that's been really awesome. And in the process of all of this, we've met some amazing people, some amazing companies along the way, and we've reconnected with people that we've known for many years. And one of them is Sally Shuttleworth. Now, for those of you who don't know Sally, I'm sure those you that have been with us for many years, or started with us, I know there's some of you online, may remember, I don't know if you remember the company Dizzy Dots. So Sally, that was Sally's company. Sally used to be an exhibitor at our exhibition. Her career in marketing and advertising spans over 20 years. She's been involved in elements of marketing and sales across a wide range of industries and business sizes. And her passion has always been working with mid-sized businesses on marketing and sales strategy. She started the Marketing Centre South Africa in 2012. And it now has a team of 30 marketing directors in 3 major cities. In 2018, Sally sadly moved to Bath with her young family and took the opportunity to join the Marketing Centre in the UK as a regional director for West Country and Wales. And whilst continuing to oversee the South African business's day-to-day operations as CEO, the Marketing Centre provides her with the opportunity to scale her skills into a business that can provide many companies with access to a variety of different and highly talented part-time marketing professionals. Now, I've been watching this marketing company, the Marketing Centre, over the past few years, and little did I realize or pay attention that our old friend, our client, Sally, was behind all of this. And it was amazing to join one of her webinar series recently. She's also joined today by Joel Serman, and he is the marketing director of the Marketing Centre. And Joel's speciality lies in business to business, fast-moving consumer goods market, and he has years of experience and extensive research in marketing research. Joel believes that brand building is not the end itself, it's simply the means to the end, and we could not agree more. Marketing must create leads, we know that, cash flow and sales in the short term while building a sustainable brand in the medium and long term. and it must be measurable. Now, we've brought these two experts online for you today to help you in your businesses, because we know that this has been a challenging year, and we know that you need all the help you can get. And this is what we're here for. We want to see your business at the other end of this pandemic. We want to see you grow during this time. And as a team, we've been putting together all our efforts and energies to ensure that you do so. So today, you're going to learn some amazing stuff, and we hope that it's going to be beneficial. We know that it's going to be beneficial, and it all depends on how you use this. You can continue the conversation, obviously, with the Marketing Centre after the webinar, because you might have specific questions. But there are a variety of things that have changed, and they are going to cover that today. So do enjoy this session. We know that it's going to be fantastic, and I'm sure my team is going to learn lots as we go along. So thank you, Sally and Joel. Great to have you with us today.
Thanks, Projeni. Thank you. I have to say, we were at your very first Exhibitor MamaMagic show, Dizzy Dots. We were one of the first exhibitors with you, from memory. So it has been a long journey together. So that's great. Well, fabulous. Thanks. Joel, take it away.
Thank you. Thanks, Projeni. Thanks, Sally. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us here. It's lovely to have everybody here. Sorry, I'm just going to load the presentation while we're going. There we go. Okay, thanks very much, and thanks everybody for coming. My name's Joel. I'm a marketing director at the Marketing Centre, and like Projeni mentioned, Sally and I are going to be presenting to you this morning our Marketing Centre 2020 Accelerator Framework, which is a really, really exciting piece of work that we've done, and that I think really sort of has shown its value in the second half of this year post-COVID. Okay, before we start, can I ask everyone, please, just to get a piece of paper, put it down, and just write on the side or on the top, opportunities and actions on the top. And as we're going, if and when you think of something that's an opportunity or an action in your business, please just to write it down, because it's something that we're going to come to a little bit later. Just very, very quickly about the Marketing Centre. We're South Africa's largest provider of part-time marketing directors to ambitious businesses. And that's really what today is about. Today is about growth and sort of moving forward out of this quagmire where we've all come from. The business model really is to take marketing directors with proven expertise and experience in specific sectors and match them with businesses looking to grow. And I think, like I said, today really is all about growth. And I think the timing is very pertinent in terms of this presentation today. Okay, just a tiny little bit of housekeeping. The first question that I have, please will everyone turn on your cameras. It's really much easier to see everybody's faces, and it's much easier to have that conversation. I'm sure everybody by now is very familiar with Zoom. Today's session is being recorded, and we will distribute it afterwards to you. It's a highly interactive session. Please stop us. Please ask questions any time that you would like to. There is a chat function at the bottom, so we will use that chat function. So you're welcome to put up a hand, to interrupt us, or to type your question in the chat at the bottom. Just two quick actions. The first thing is, please will you just make sure that the name showing on your screen is your name. If it's not, if you'll just scroll over your picture, there are 3 dots in the top corner, and you can just click on those dots and then click on where it says rename, and just make sure that your name is correct. And then just before we start, can I ask everyone, please, just to type in the chat your name, your company name, and the province that you're in, and then we're ready to go. Okay, so the first model we wanted to share with you is a model we call the comfort zone model. And I think what's important here is really just to understand where we've come from this year and what's got us to where we are all sitting here today. And I think the first zone there is what we call the fear zone, which is really sort of uncharted territory. And I think this happened to, I was going to say most of us, but I'm pretty sure all of us at the beginning of March. We were told our businesses have to close, our customers' businesses have to close. Those of us who are selling, online, we're selling to a consumer base now with significantly less income than they previously had. And so that sort of fear zone that started in March really lasted till mid-April. I think when most businesses started moving into what we call the learning zone, which is really the adapt to survive, short-term focus of what I have to do with this business to make sure that I can get through this crisis. And then what happened in around June, a lot of the businesses then started moving into the growth zone. And that's really where we are today. We're sitting here post what we've gone through, although still part of it, and really trying to understand where do we go from here. We can't assume to sell the same products or the same services to our same customers in the same way than we did pre-COVID. And so I suppose the real question today is, how do we grow from here? And that's really what today is about. And that's why we built this 2020 Accelerator Framework. It's a very, very pragmatic framework. It's a 5-step process. And it helps us first review where we have been, what's got us here, and then to plan our response in terms of our business growth going forward. So what will happen today? Today we'll walk you through the framework. You'll get the opportunity to test drive key parts of it. We are going to go through it quite quickly, purely by virtue of the time constraints. However, we are here and we'd be more than happy to sit afterwards or on another day and assist or work through the framework with you. But that said, by the end of today, you'll have the confidence, you have the tools to be able to use the framework in your own business, either by yourself or we are, like I said, we are available. Okay, just before we carry on, just a note to make. So the way that the framework works is that we start by looking at business strategy and slowly make our way down to marketing strategy. There are 5 parts of the framework, like you can see, and the first 4 parts will raise issues that aren't purely marketing. They might be IT or operations or finance or whatever it is. And then by the time we get down to the sharp end of the framework, exercise 5, we'll have whittled it down to purely marketing, what's the word? So initiatives. But it is important that within your business, you have people who can assist you with the other initiatives that will be raised, like I said, be it finance, be it operations, or whatever it is. And then the last point to mention that everybody who completes today's session, you will receive a workbook showing the whole framework, how it works, all the models from today. That's really something that you can implement in your business. Okay, and with that, we are pretty much ready to start. I'm going to hand it over to Sally.
Great, thank you. Let me just share my screen. Great, so hopefully you can all see that. Is that clear, Joel? Great, perfect, thanks. So hello everyone, and thanks Joel for that. So you can see that, well, we all know that the world has changed slightly over the last few months, and things that we've always known to be true just are no longer. So we know that in South Africa, 22% of South Africans are shopping online more often and less in physical stores, and 71% of South Africans are spending more time on social media. So a really good opportunity for the digital space. PwC has recommended that businesses put contingency plans into place and examine the implications and review all their communications over this period, and that's why one of the reasons why we also think that this Accelerator Framework will help you look at what you're doing and what needs to change or stop. And 60% of businesses have, in general, probably more, to be honest, it sounds like a very low figure really, have had to discover new ways of working that may well still serve us well for a long time still to come as we come out of lockdown completely. And I think there have been massive insights and learnings from this entire period of time that we really couldn't have predicted. So we're going to get to the first exercise of today, which is, how has our context changed?
Sorry, you're not on presentation mode.
Am I not on presentation mode? No. Sorry, apologies.
No problem.
There we go. Oh, that's better.
Cool.
Sorry. So how's our context changed? And we're going to spend a bit of time examining how the environmental context for your business will have changed as well, and what you need to do to either benefit or reduce the negative impact of that moving forward. So feel free to write anything down on that piece of paper that Joel mentioned earlier that pops into mind. This is really important to say at this point, that this entire Accelerator Framework process is a creative process. We want to put all ideas down, whether you in the back of your mind are saying whether this is good or bad. We want you to put everything down, because the way we are funneling this is that we will find the best opportunities, the most feasible ones, through doing this model. But it's really important that you capture everything that comes to mind, because it's part of the creative process. So in the marketing world, we commonly use a structure known as PESTLE. You can see that on the screen now. And this helps us explore our macro or external environment that could have a profound impact on the business's performance. So a pestle is a mnemonic, and many of you may have heard of a pest before, and the LE has been added relatively recently. So it stands for political, economical, social, cultural, technological, legal, or environmental. And we would recommend businesses that go through each of these areas to really see how things have changed over the last few months for them. Because in a nutshell, it really gives us a bird's eye view of the whole environment from many different angles, and that helps us keep track on deciding on which direction to take the business forward. So we want to examine how individual pestle factors specific to COVID and the crisis that we've gone through with the pandemic this year will be affecting your business, and really find potential opportunities as a result to move forward with. So I'm sure that each of you can think of something as you're sitting there in amongst those. We don't have time, unfortunately, to go through the pestle individually. So we're going to take you through the one that we found has probably affected most people hugely, and that's technological. So when you get through workbook, you'll see that there are slides for each areas of these to help you take you through those and ask you questions. So this is what the technological slide looks like, and it's really how might recent changes, so we're doing the T in the pestle now, how might recent changes in how people use technology impact your business. So this is a little bit of a workbook session, I suppose, now, because what I'm going to ask you to do is really think about this for your business as we go through it, and to write down on that piece of paper anything that springs to mind. So these areas really give you a bit of a question to complete the boxes in your own business. And you'll see the green box at the top is where we sort of see the generic technological changes that have affected most businesses. So there's been a massive increase in online shopping and selling. Video conferencing has become the norm. I'm sitting here in Bath in the UK and virtually the dark, but it is blue sky, which is good. And that just wouldn't be possible in sort of the way we used to do breakfast events and that kind of thing. So we've run these events with hundreds of people coming from all over the world, actually, for many of them. And that's something that's almost brought us closer together whilst we're so far apart. So consumers are also expecting a far smoother digital experience. They are far more demanding of technology now in order to try and keep business and life going smoothly, particularly if you've had children at home trying to access the online schools whilst you're trying to be on a webinar or a Zoom meeting or something like that. So we are just more reliant as businesses as well on digital channels to keep our teams together. And the reason to be cheerful is obviously that we are all able to be here together. So are there any changes here that have affected your business missing? So I'm going to give you a minute now just to maybe jot anything down that you have found with your business over the last few months has affected you from a technological factor. And stare at you intently through the screen while you do that. And if you're unsure of anything at any point in time, just pop it into the chat or just come off mute and ask it away.
So hi there, Annelien. Yeah, sorry.
Hello, hi, Annelien.
I just want to know on digital experiences, can you give me some examples? I'm old school, so for me, this year were a very big challenge because we used to more one-on-ones in all the old days. So for me, this was very challenging. Luckily, I've got a daughter that does our social media, so that helped a lot. Yeah. Can you give me some ideas on that? Some examples, please.
Well, what we've experienced is that where consumers have been very used to going in, and particularly in the baby industry, mums love to touch stuff, they love to smell it, they love to take it out the packaging and have a really good look at it. And obviously that's been a huge challenge for you. I mean, and the other thing about the baby industry, which it's one of the hardest industries to survive in, I think, because you've got new consumers all the time that you have to educate from scratch. the moment somebody falls pregnant with their first child, they've never paid attention to anything in the baby industry before. And they go through a whole educational journey and a whole journey of learning in order to get to a point where they know what brand they want and how they're going to feed their babies and how to keep them alive in general. And then you only actually have them for a very short period of time. You only have them whilst they're having their babies, and their babies are little, and then they move on, and you've got to replace those customers all the time. So the baby industry is one of those challenging industries that if you're not there at the right time, in the right place, in front of your consumers, in the way that they buy and that they are comfortable buying, then you will be missed. And so it's really about understanding how your specific customer needs to buy from you and how she or he needs to experience that buying, and then being able to try and find a way of delivering that both digitally and physically. So whilst you can't do it physically, you've got to find a way of doing that digitally. So, you know, I don't know much about your business, sorry, but I don't know if that's helpful. Joel, have you got anything to add to that?
What is your business, Annalie?
We focus on, we have a baby formula milk maker machine, then we have TVs and spoons.
Oh yes, I saw that online actually.
So it's feeding, so it's all about feeding. Our core function is feeding for babies.
Yeah, so I mean, it's all about the experience of I've seen your machine. I had a look at your website yesterday actually, and it is all about the experience of so it's about the benefits. So it's a benefit of ease of having milk at the right time, at the right temperature, or food at the right time, at the right temperature, making it's really about understanding the benefit to your customer of your product, not the features, not the buttons and you know, it's really about how you communicate to them how your products are going to make their lives easier and their babies happier. Because ultimately that's what we're looking for. And so you could do that through videos and through customer experience and references and referrals, and really deliver that in short, snappy videos. And social media is definitely your friend on that, I would say. Joel?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting to hear what you said, Sal, about the baby industry. Sally's obviously a significantly more expert in the baby industry than I am, but we have had a couple of clients in the space. And one thing that we found really useful was that new mothers specifically do seem to come together in the same sort of digital spaces. So in terms of finding them and be able to communicate to them, that was actually something that we found was a big benefit to that. You know, once we highlighted exactly where these people did come together and what was important to them, certainly online and digitally, we found a lot of success in
and that's one of the reasons why MamaMagic's been so unbelievably successful.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Projeni, I don't know if you've got anything else to add on this. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely agree with you. I think technology has been a challenge because not many of the businesses that we deal with have gone that video route, you know, in terms of demonstrating, because we know, like you said, mums want to touch and feel and they want to experience that product. But now it's the challenge, of course, is to how to take that product online and show them the benefits without just focusing on the features, like you're saying, you know. The machine sounds amazing and we know it's amazing, but exactly how is it benefiting mum? And I think you've got to appeal to that emotional sense when you're going online as well.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to really focus on right now, post what this pandemic has done, it's really driven a need for authenticity. You know, I think there's a lot, people feel very confused. Everything that we know and believe to be true has been stripped from us. The certainty has been taken away. Our ability to choose has been ripped away from us. We you know, there's just all this unknown in the world. And the more you can provide a new mum who's going to be very nervous about things like, is she going to have to give birth on her own? How is she going to look after a baby if her parents potentially can't visit and help her? You know, how is what you do going to make her confidence and her certainty far better? And give her, you know, the feeling that she will be a good mum even if she has to do it on her own. And those are the emotional things, but the authenticity therefore is really important. So don't worry about the fact that if you create a video in your kitchen and it's not immaculate and it's not professionally done with all the trimmings around the edges, that doesn't matter anymore. What people are looking for now is authenticity. So if you get a few mums to do videos of them using your machine and then putting it online, you know, that is good enough, because what mums are looking for is other mums to tell them what to use and how to go about making the choices. And also what they're looking from you is authenticity, that you are real, you are trustworthy, and that what you tell them is going to happen is going to happen. So be as real as you can. And you can see even platforms like LinkedIn that have always been very professional, and we've always had, you know, our face full of makeup and our hair perfectly done in our photographs on LinkedIn, and we've never really put anything personal on LinkedIn because it's always been very business, has changed dramatically through this pandemic. And you'll see lots of people posting videos of holding their own phones, talking to the video about their experiences of the day. And I think it is really important for you as small businesses who possibly haven't got the budgets to compete with the Nooks and the big guys, is to just be yourselves. That's what mums are looking for, is for you to be yourselves. So I hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Sally. Yes, much
Sorry,
appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to take too much time, but just, I mean, I've just thought of, you know, we do quite a lot of work for dairies and food companies. And in terms of our segmentation, we identified one segment that we called professional moms. And professional moms aren't people who are stay-at-home moms necessarily. There are moms who are so good at being moms, and they're new moms often. They're just, the research that they do, you can compare it to sort of to the level of research that PhD students do. They know how much fat or sugar or, you know, preservatives are in products, and they are voracious consumers of information and knowledge. And it was very interesting to see the extent to which.
And they're big influencers as well, aren't they, Joel?
Big, 100%.
So they're the mums you want talking about your products. I was that mum. I think I'd read 13 baby books before I'd even had a baby. So anyway, so I'm going to move on now, if that's okay. So the second question the second area we look at here when we look at technological changes is, how has it affected your business specifically? How do you think the technological changes have affected the industry, the baby industry at large? And that you can look at the likes of the bigger stores that have had to shut for periods of time and now are challenged by the fact that they too have to move online and be digital potentially. You know, how your customers have had to change their buying behavior. They can't go in and play and touch your products and see them all in a line and make the decision between one and the other. And they now have to do a lot of the research themselves. How's that changed for them? And your competitors, and you may have a few even on the call today, but how do you think your competitors have had to change the way they work? So if you can just spend a couple of minutes now, I'll give you until 12:30 now, just to fill in those boxes there. This is really important because what this is going to do is find opportunities for you that you may not have thought of before. So if you've got questions, shout, otherwise pop them into chat, but look at those specific 4 areas now.
I think Pranesan has a question, Sally.
Okay. Hi, Sally. Sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Pranesan. You can see, but listen, I have a question about stats pretty much, because I'm looking at developing or enhancing a marketing plan at the moment. And one of the things I've fallen short of is, I understand that technology is like advancing e-commerce and trade quite dramatically. But what the COVID has also done is it's created a shift in the consumer market, a slight change in the consumer market.
Massive.
And you find that the customers that you would normally have may not be the customers that you currently are looking to, that you're gonna get going forward. So I'm basically, I mean, I can do my own homework. I'm looking for an avenue to find like stats regarding you know, other than employed mums, to find what's probably been the drop of disposable income in South Africa for mothers, you know, how birth rates have changed recently, things like that, that could obviously stimulate a marketing plan. And I'm finding it quite difficult. Listen, I focus a lot on trading economics and whatnot to get this type of information, but more specifically on the ground level now, I mean, I'm targeting people through Facebook and through Google ads. And what tends to happen is, if I'm not completely understanding who my customer is, which is what I'm battling with at the moment, I'm wasting a lot of money. So yeah, if there's any avenues where there's some research being done or something about surveys being done, where could I find something like that? Do you guys have access to things like that?
Joel's your man. He's the market research guru.
Alison, thanks for the question. So, I mean, you asked a few questions there, so let me try to answer them. Or the first question is, there is ongoing research going on all the time. We're doing a lot of research at the moment as well. The issue with research is it has to be specific to what you need. And the good news is that to set up and run a small research study looking specifically what you need is not overly expensive and not hard to do. It's definitely something we're doing all the time for our clients, because you're right. You're absolutely right. If you don't get your targeting and segmentation absolutely right, you are throwing away money on Google Ads. And Google Ads are clever. I mean, they at least charge you per click through to your website. But the secret with Google Ads isn't how many clicks come through to your website. It's what happens with those clicks and your conversion rates on your website. And for that, you're absolutely right. It's critical to understand your market. But yeah, we do a lot of research. We do very much this kind of research that you're talking about, understanding shifting demographics and consumer behavior currently in the new market. And maybe let's just chat for 15 minutes afterwards, and I can tell you exactly the kind of thing that one can do.
And Joel, a question, can I just follow that on with a question, just for businesses that maybe don't have the budget to get a company like the Marketing Centre to do that research for them, how would you suggest they look at their existing customer base and pull something together that's usable?
Well, then I think it's an issue of doing the work yourself. It's about sitting down with the mothers and asking them the right questions and understanding, you know, what they're doing and what they're saying, and then just relying on the fact that it is a sample and one can take sort of general principles out of it, maybe not generalize it to the whole community. But again, and we're actually going to talk about it a little bit later, we had such an unbelievable time during lockdown. One of our biggest customers, the CEO was sitting at home, and what did he start doing? He started phoning and Zooming with the CEOs of his big companies, of his big customers. And all of a sudden really started to understand their business to the extent that he had never done it before. And for me, that principle is absolutely scalable up or down. And I think, like Prenison said, to sit down, even if you do it yourself with mothers or with your target market, and really just speak to them and understand what they're saying. It's obviously harder when you're doing it yourself because you've got skin in the game, and there is the possibility to put some bias, into the questions or hear what you want to hear. But I think if one's careful, it's the most valuable exercise you can do.
And I don't know anyone like mums mums love to talk about their babies and their needs and their requirements and their experiences. And
100%.
I think we sometimes, and if you're talking about B2B, if you're not talking about B2C, so you're talking to businesses that you provide products to, be it Baby City or Clicks or Discam or Kids Emporium or the retailers, is don't be scared of your customers. I think we do all have a tendency to almost be too scared to talk to our customers because we don't want to upset the apple cart, and actually the more you speak to them, the better your relationship will get and the more knowledge you'll have, and the more they'll know you are trying to understand them. So don't fear your customers, and I know that lots of people are scared to talk to them, so I hope that's helpful. Were there any other questions you want to answer there, Joel, or should we leave that till the end? He's gone on mute.
Sorry, I think that's what I wrote down. There is there is another option, but I think for businesses of small size businesses, it then takes a whole lot of businesses getting together. There's something called syndicated research, and syndicated research is research that's done on a wide scale and then sold as a product. And one can then buy it. It's expensive though, it's a couple of $1,000s. So one would have to get together with a group of businesses. The problem obviously with syndicated research at the moment is it's not talking to the current absolute situation. That's why I think a small bespoke study is whether you do it or someone else does it, is the right way to deal with that.
That's right. Okay, so let's move on. If I can get my mouse in the right place. Right, so finally, the box on the right here is really looking at these and showing us the potential opportunities that we could, as a result of having filled in these last two sections, have found. Now, again, what I said to you here is don't get wound up in whether something would work or not. And the example of that is if you were a brand selling only through retail, i.e. you had 25 to 200 retailers that you provide a product to, and that's been an issue with lockdown and that kind of thing. So you may think, do I need to go direct to consumer at this point? But you in your back of your head, you might be saying, oh, I can't do that because that would upset my retailers. At this point in time, put those concerns to one side, pop it down, write it down. We'll look at whether that's an important initiative later. But just put down every idea that comes as, would online media be a good idea? Do you need better digital sales channels? You know, would an e-commerce website work for you? You know, remote service delivery, do you need to be selling through, you know, Takealot? Whatever it is that comes up for you, pop down there, and you're going to have until a couple of minutes here to think about that. Okay, so that basically is the sort of an illustration of how you would go through the pestle. And what I would say is don't be attached to this model as you have to go through it like a slave. Really pick the things that are going to be important for you in your business. If the legal environment isn't an important one for you, then don't focus on it too much. The idea is what we're trying to do is to show you ways of thinking about your business that are different from what you're currently doing. So really make this yours, and use it in the way that works best for you. So that, I think, is, I'm handing over to Joel now.
Great, thanks, Sal. Okay, there we go. Okay, so thanks for that, Sal. So we're going to move on to the second exercise, which really talks about what we've learned about ourselves, about our business during the crisis. We call it a crisis response matrix, and you can see that there are 4 quadrants. On the left-hand side, we talk about things that we started doing and stopped doing during the crisis. In other words, how we adapted to the crisis during the crisis. And then at the bottom, we look at things that we started and stopped doing post-crisis. So there are obviously 4 quadrants. The first quadrant is what we call end. So end are things that we started doing during the crisis, but stopped doing after the crisis. A good example here is that we've got a very big printing client who couldn't print. They couldn't do anything during the crisis. So what did they do? They adapted their machines and started making those face shields. They branded the face shields and started making those, and they paid their salaries in April and May making face shields. Obviously, once their core competency was back, they could then stop that and move to doing what they usually do. The second quadrant is called amplify. So these are things that we started doing out of necessity during the crisis, but post-crisis we saw it was a good idea and we decided to carry on. And the example here is actually the example I was talking about slightly earlier, where we've got a very, very big customer, lock manufacturer and distributor. There was no building or construction going on. So, the CEO was sitting at home during lockdown and decided, well, why doesn't he give his big customers who he didn't really see a call on Zoom? And what he did was he decided he was going to make 2 Zoom calls every single day, and it turned into an unbelievable campaign, to the extent that now we're building a systematic program for him around this specific campaign, and we called it a multi-level relationship campaign. And what we do now is that at the 3 different relationships, at 3 different levels of their business, we're now forging relationships at top, middle, and bottom level with their customers. So it's not only the rep speaking. And that was a really, really interesting example of things that we're now going to amplify and do even more. The let go quadrant talks about things that we stopped doing during lockdown, and then we realized sort of was maybe a good idea to leave. And this often talks to businesses that are overstaffed or inefficiently staffed, or staffed in a way that doesn't create the high performance environment that we are looking for. And it really gave businesses an opportunity to recalibrate their staffing to make sure that they're performing as efficiently as they want to. And then the last quadrant here was restart. So restart again with things obviously we stopped doing out of necessity during the crisis, but things that we've now picked up doing. And a lot of what we're doing now is customer research, really to understand where are our customers, like we were speaking about earlier, what products are they buying, what services are they buying, how are they buying, how are they interacting with them. So this is a model that we now use really on a weekly basis in terms of really deciding our strategy going forward. So I mean, I'm really interested in terms of the potential opportunities for your businesses. I've just put some examples. I mean, many of these might not be applicable to some of you or all of you. Some will be. They're just sort of random examples of things we've come across. The first one is things that we stopped doing during the crisis: physical store visits to small independent stores. And a lot of our clients have now decided, there are more efficient ways of servicing their bronze customer base, be that by Zoom meetings or be that by telephone or however it is. They've now really focused on terrible store. Sorry, I pulled out my earphone. On selling to their, fish where the fish are, selling to their silver and gold base. Things that we started doing but have now stopped, managing local deliveries ourselves. During the crisis, every single sale, obviously, as you all know, really counted. And now it's time to look more strategically and more long-term. International trade shows. So things that stopped happening but then have restarted. And I mean, Projeni, you'll know better than most of us, but the trade shows have been, I think, one of the big wins out of this whole thing. I sat in a trade show in Berlin the day before yesterday, things that we've never ever been able to do. So I think that there are really opportunities that have come out of it. And again, it's made us re-examine our sales approach and the cost of sale that we incur selling to different customer base. And I think a lot of our clients have decided, for the smaller customer base, let's try sell to them in a way that incurs a smaller cost of sale. And how do we sell to those customer bases more efficiently? And then, okay, of course, looking at sales opportunities through other distributors like Takealot. And then, of course, we saw the Made in South Africa model. I'm really interested in anybody's experience in terms of trying to import products from other countries before and during the crisis. I mean, I was saying one of our customers in February said to me they're out of stock because China, the Chinese factory, had closed down, obviously, before it hit South Africa, and that affected their market as well. So what we do, sorry, I don't know if anyone wants to just mention anything before I talk about the potential opportunities. Any questions or comments? Okay, if you have anything to say about your business, I'll be really, really interested to hear. So please do let me know. So then what we do is from here is we pull out the potential opportunities. So again, develop our own brand or locally produced products. Okay, so maybe let me just take one step back quickly and just talk to strategically how we define pull marketing and push marketing. So when we're in a value chain, and you may be the middleman, or you may be the importer or manufacturer, but push marketing are marketing to our customers who might not be in this specific instance. They may or may not be the end user. So we're marketing to our customers and understanding what they need from our business. And at the same time, pull marketing is when we market to the end user, the consumer of our product, and get them to demand product from our customers. Obviously, depending on our value chain, that may or may not be relevant to everybody.
And Joel, if I can just jump in here,
Please.
sorry, is that with the baby industry, that push-pull is probably one of the industries where this is the most important thing, because not only are you potentially selling through intermediaries and stores and that kind of thing, but you are so responsible for doing the educational piece for your customer, because if they don't know about your product and it's not where they're doing their reading and they're not finding it on the exposure website, and you're not doing that piece, you cannot rely on the likes of Baby City and Clicks and Discount to do that work for you. They just simply don't have the capacity to do it as well as you do. And because it is such an educational market where mums are so overwhelmed and so confused by the sheer scale of what's available nowadays. I mean, when we started Projeni, I don't know how many years ago, there was so little available, wasn't there? And the market literally exploded around us in the next decade. So you're not just competing. If you do bowls and spoons, you're not just competing with people who, another baby manufacturer that does bowls and spoons. You're competing with Woolworths, and you're competing with share of wallet just amongst all sorts of, mums will make a decision about if they don't need that bowl and spoon, they can use what they've got at home, and they'll spend their money on another baby product rather as well. So you've got this entire dynamic going on in the baby industry. So that push-pull is really important here.
And there's a huge
Thank you. Sorry, no, go. It's fantastic to speak to someone who's got that level of insight in the industry. Thank
and
you.
Joel, there's also a huge level of innovation in the market, in the baby market as well. That's been wonderful to see. I mean, you're talking about something as simple as bowls and spoons, and you wonder, like, can you actually get innovative with bowls and spoons? But
right.
It has really, really exploded. So trying to show those innovations, because we know that there's a new mum, that's what she's looking for. You know, she wants that tangible creativeness. You know, it's this new way of bringing up your child.
Projeni, it's so interesting to hear you say that, because when we did the research with the new moms that I was talking about earlier, we did it probably now 3 or 4 years ago, one of the questions we asked was, what proportion of new moms, and I think we defined it as our new moms, we defined it kids 0 to 3 years old, had a product idea, had seen a gap and had a product or service idea. And the answer was 89% of the new moms, exactly to your point. Obviously, most of them hadn't followed through with it, but 89%, I'll never forget that figure, had seen a gap and said, no, we need to, or wouldn't it be clever to introduce a product or a service here? So 100%, I couldn't agree with you more.
And I suppose there lies in the opportunity for all these brands and like you're saying, with the research and talking to these mums, not everybody has that skill that all these companies that have the opportunity to start. So tapping into that market to find out where they see the gaps and where they believe you can innovate and where, you know, is important, because you have that capability that they don't have of taking it to the next level.
100%. And I think that again plays into the discussion we're having with Prenison earlier in terms of actually speaking to the market and understand, because everybody's got insights. I agree with you 100%. Thank you. Okay, so then just the last two opportunities, again, looking at online international trade shows that we spoke about and segmenting the customer base for more efficient selling. So these are potential opportunities that we put, hypothetical opportunities that we've pulled out of this, and Sally's going to talk you through what we do with those opportunities.
As soon as I can work out how to unmute myself and share my screen again. Okay. Great. So that should be on presentation mode. Can everyone see that? Is that clear? Good. Okay. No one's shouting, so I'll take that as a yes. So we have looked at the first two exercises, and that's including looking at our external environment and considering what activities we are doing, plus their future use to our business as well through the crisis response matrix. And that crisis response matrix is, it's just such a fabulous tool for you to use. And it's something I would recommend you look at, you know, regularly in your business, because it really does help you think from a different angle. And that's all we're trying to do, is just show you different ways to look at the things that you've been looking at in the same way for such a long time. Because when you're very operational in your business, and you know, in small businesses, you're not your CEO, but you're chief everything officer. You know, you're doing everything. You're answering emails, making the calls, packing the stuff up in the stock room, keeping the stock by, you're manufacturing, designing, you're everything. And so you get very operational on your business. And sometimes it's really good just to separate yourself and have the space to do this. So it is really good sometimes to have someone else to do it with you and help keep you, because if you're sort of focused, I find that sometimes if I do this on my own, I end up in the fridge. So it's generally quite good if you can get, oh, I think my husband's bringing me coffee, excuse me. Thank you. It's very early here. Well-trained husband. It's really always good to get other input as well from other people when you do this, particularly the next bit. So we're going to move on to the third area now, which is what are the new risks and opportunities? And most of you will have seen this before. So a SWOT, which is a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, most businesses will have done this at some point in time, and you do it and you take a cursory glance to it, and then you pop it in a folder and think, yes, I'll look at that at some point in time. And then 2 years later, you pull it out and you redo it again, and it goes back in the folder. And I would say, you know, we're not going to spend a huge amount of time on actually completing this today, because it's something that needs really good amount of time to it. Now, we have a really good way of doing the SWOT, which, you know, we'd be happy to share with any of you, where we can put ratios and values against each area, which then helps you plot how you want to improve your strengths and opportunities over time, quarterly, and how you want to reduce your weaknesses and your threats over time, so that it becomes a living, breathing document. And I would say the SWOT is something that needs to be used as a living, breathing document within your business. No matter how big or small you are, it's really important that you reevaluate this on a quarterly basis, I would say. So keep it alive and go back to it and see how things have changed and where you've improved and what you've been able to change, because this really does give you a lot of information. So it's a good planning tool, really, is what I would say. So what we're going to do is pop some questions on here, and you'll see the pink ones are basically the ones that are the most important things. So if you're looking at strengths, it's what do you do really well? Weaknesses, where could you improve? Opportunities, you know, what are the changes in the marketplace which might be beneficial to your business right now and moving forward, specifically to the pandemic as well. Because obviously if you've done a SWOT in the last year, it's probably irrelevant now. So you need to look at that now, because your customer base would have changed as well. So, and then threats, you know, any of the changes in your market that could harm your business. And that could include competitors moving fast to get onto digital platforms than you are, and being better at that. So, you know, that's something to think about. So what I wanted to do really was to go through some hints and tips for you when you're completing this, because I think this is something that should probably take you a few hours to do. And I would really, really urge you to do this with somebody you know, love and trust. Get somebody to do it with you. If you've got a team at the office, do it with them. If you've got a partner who's involved in the business, do it with them. Get somebody to facilitate it almost for you, so that you get the questions asked of you. You're not the one asking the questions, because it's much harder. It's much better to think being asked than to have to ask and answer. So that's the one thing. When you're looking at strengths, it's really important that you don't come up with hygiene factors. So if you don't know what a hygiene factor is, it's basically something that you really should be doing anyway for your industry. So if you were to say, we make parenting easier, I would kind of argue that should be a hygiene factor of any of the products that are being manufactured for the baby industry now. We make sleeping bags that help your baby sleep better. It's kind of a hygiene factor of a sleeping bag, really, a baby sleeping bag. And I think you've got to come up with things that really are unique about what it is you're doing. So really focus on the strengths, and they need to be sustainable and provable and measurable, really. So the example I always use, which is quite good, I think, is of a coffee shop. So if you walked past a coffee shop and they had a big A-frame outside that said, "We make hot coffee," you'd be like, huh? Shouldn't coffee be hot? Unless it's really hot and you'd like a cold frappe. But it's you know, we make really cold, ice cold frappes, or something like that. It's a hygiene factor. It's like, what is the speciality of your beans? Have they been picked by, you know, angels in the forests of Guatemala, and breathed on by, you know, whatever, or is it the milk? You've got 16 choices of milk that you can have, and you know, all that kind of thing. So you're really looking at what makes you different. That's kind of what I'm saying. And I'd say try not to have a list that's too long. Any of these, you may start off with a long list, but try and keep it to the succinct, really key important ones as well. And then the other thing that we see a lot of businesses doing is really overestimating their strengths. It's like the strengths are like this long in the list, and then everything else, the weaknesses are like here. And so, you know, and that when you have to say, is this really a measurable, sustainable, provable strength, and do our customers really give a toss about it, is the question you should be asked. The so what factor. I use the word so what a lot when we run these in workshops with customers. I'm like, so what? And they go, well, it's really important because, and I'm like, well, so what? And if you keep doing the so what, you can almost columnize it. You can say, this is a strength, so what? So what? So what? And until you get to something which is really specific. And I would really urge you to do that, really. And be specific, don't generalize too much. So hopefully that will help you kind of. And so I don't know if so we have got some here which we popped in, probably not as relevant for you as some of the examples we've already spoken about. So I'm not going to go through these too much, but it would be things like building a stronger online B2C brand, building better relationships with your customers online. That would definitely be an opportunity for some of you, I imagine, if you haven't already done that. Some of you have got beautiful websites. I've seen them, they're lovely. I don't know what your social media activities are like. Obviously, if you are B2B and you are distributing and you're trying to build business relationships, looking at being active on LinkedIn might be relevant, but it may not be relevant as well. LinkedIn probably isn't a massive area for you. I don't know what the baby market is like on LinkedIn. Actually, it was that's preemie. or post me rather, shall I say. And it's managing things like, the threats may be managing customer disappointment if your stock levels haven't been as good as, or you just haven't been able to deliver as easily. In some businesses, there's been a drop in demand because either financially people aren't able to get to where the level you're at, or you may have competitors who are just doing a much better job than you online. So look at those things and really analyze them and use them to come up with the opportunities. So when we look at opportunities, we overlay this on the top, and this is all in the workbook. So we're flying through this now. And if any of you are feeling a bit overwhelmed about this, don't, because the workbook really lays it out, and you can always pick up the phone and phone us if you need a little bit more help. But it is about looking at the strengths and saying, how can we take all of the strengths, all of the weaknesses, the opportunities and threats, and turn them into potential opportunities. Again, creativity is key here. It doesn't matter how bad the idea is. It demands merit, because a bad idea can sometimes become something magical, because it's maybe something you're looking for, something that no one else is thinking about, really. And that's what I would really urge you to do, is to spend time being creative on this. And normally when we do this with businesses, we do it in a boardroom, or in a room locked away, and we have post-it notes flying in different colors all over the room and on walls and windows. And it's a really engaged, interactive way of doing that. If you can't do that at the moment because of the pandemic, there are really good ways of doing it. So there's a piece of software online called Mural, which you can use free. I think you can have three free Mural boards going on at the same time. You can leave them open so people can add ideas to it in between. You can put post-it notes on, you can prioritize those post-it notes. It's just a phenomenal tool, and you can share it on Zoom and do it live. So I would say, really look at the software that you've got available to you to be able to do this with other members of your team if you aren't close enough to be able to meet, or whatever. And then, and keep it going and break it up. So maybe you don't want to do a swap on Zoom over 5 hours. It's a bit of a killer. I think we're all struggling with digital fatigue. So maybe just do strengths in one go, and set it for an hour and a half, and have a good break at 45 minutes to get a coffee, get your husband as well trained as mine, and and set small time scales while you're still fresh and you can still think about things. Well, don't try and do it all in one big chunk, because you won't give it the justice that it needs. And that is SWOT over. So
I think Vanessa has another question. Vanessa?
I'm loving all the questions. Great.
Hi, you spoke about competitors. How would you recommend that you like analyze competitors in this particular industry? Because it's a very small industry, and it's a very niche industry, and there's not much information out there for competitors. And other than just like the way I've been doing it is, if I look at someone's website and I see that they're having discounts often, I'm believing that they are using a discounting pricing strategy, But is there a way or tool that can assist in trying to understand better what exactly it is that your competitors are doing?
So Joel will definitely be able to answer that. But one thing I would say, just before when you're talking about assuming that your competitors are running a discount strategy, I would say that's quite a dangerous assumption, because it just may be that they've got excess they're getting rid of, or they are running an end of line, or they are just, it's just a promotion. But so I would say, it's dangerous to assume that they're, and it's definitely not a field you want to play in, that you don't want to get involved in the discount market, because there's no winner there ever, really. It's about really finding.
And that's exactly my issue.
Yeah. Okay. We'll have let's to see what Joel has to say, because he will definitely have something to say on this.
So what we usually use in a situation like this, what we call the KSM competitor model, is the key selling metrics competitor model. So what we do, again, by sitting with our customers, we understand what are the key metrics that would encourage our customers to buy from us or a competitor, etc. So first thing we do, we put down all the metrics, and the second thing we do is we weight them. So we take a total of 100 points, and we say how much are each of those metrics, and we split up the metrics by 100 points. So the most important one might get 10 or 15 or 20 points, however, and that lets us prioritize them. And then what we do is we then set up measures to say, how are we going to work out how our customers are strategically dealing with each of these metrics. So as a bad example, it might be One might be, the level of quality checks or whatever it is. And we set up before and say, we're going to give our customers scores for each of these based on X, Y, and Z. And then what we do is we do a gap analysis. So we say, we know from speaking to the mothers, these are the most important 3 factors. We know that our competitor scores an 8 out of 10 for this, the other one scores a 6 out of 10, but we score a 4 out of 10. And what we do is we create a gap analysis to say, this is where the guys are doing better than us. These are the important factors where the guys are doing better than us. These are the important factors where we're doing better than our competitors. For the important factors where we're doing better than our competitors, that's what Sally was talking about. We try to create a differentiating factor out of those. So we try and make those into a proper sustainable differentiator. And for the important factors where they're doing better than us, well, then that's the strategic conversation, which we actually can deal with a little bit later in terms of what are the priorities and how do we get our product to that. But the key thing with competitor analysis, like with SWOT analysis, is that it's largely quantitative. Obviously, there has to be a qualitative element where there are words and talking. But the problem that we see with a lot of competitor analysis, we walk into a business and it's a paragraph. And so you can't work with a paragraph because what does it tell you? So we try wherever we can to also quantify what the issues are so that we can then work to narrow the gap or increase the gap in instances where we are stronger.
We run quite a good webinar, and we've got a marketing director who has recorded a webinar very similar to what Joel's talking about, and I think it's called How to Price Your Platypus, and he's written a book on pricing and basically pricing and positioning versus your competitors, and it's very similar to what Joel's talking about, and that I think is on our website. Shan will confirm, or Nicola will confirm, and we can maybe put a link in the chat to that webinar video, which you can watch free of charge and hopefully get something more out of that to help you with that area. So would that be okay, Shan? I've probably thrown a complete panic to her now. She's like, where is it? But if not,
thanks,
pardon, Shan?
I'll share it with you shortly and pop it into the chat.
Yes, otherwise we can always forward it via email later. But we'll find that video so that you can watch that, because I think that would be useful. Okay. Great. So are we happy to move on? Yeah. So we are going to now look at exercise 4, which is really, now we've got all the potential opportunities identified, we need to decide which ones are the right ones and turn those into provisional initiatives, which is exercise 4. And we're going to firm these up into prioritized initiatives at the next stage. So again, there's still a very lovely long list of opportunities at this point in time. And if your list isn't hugely long, then don't worry about it, because it means that you're doing a lot right already. So it's just about really prioritizing now. So not all opportunities are created equal, and we need to work out which ones really deserve most of our attention. So a simple way to do this is by the next exercise, which I absolutely love this model. I hope you'll love it too. And it's called an impact effort model. And it really is a fabulous way of assessing whether an opportunity has sufficient merit, and you can use this grid to do that. So low effort and high impact means that it probably ought to be prioritized by you in the business. Low effort and low impact means it could be looked at, so it's a maybe. If it's high effort and high impact, it wouldn't be something you would discount, because it would very much depend on whether the effort or the impact was sufficiently high enough to sort of be worthy of the effort. But if it's high effort with low impact, it would generally be something you would just choose to shelve and not look at now, unless you have to do it because it's a hygiene factor or a legal requirement for your business. So just to clarify where we are, just in case anybody's a little bit lost, because we have had lots of really fabulous chats. I'm really enjoying the questions, so keep them coming. These are the 3 exercises we've done. So we've looked at the external macro environment. We've looked at the crisis response area. What do we need to keep doing? What do we need to stop doing? Let go and that kind of thing. And then we've looked at the SWOT. So an interesting point at this point, Joel has a really good way of explaining the difference between a pistol and a SWOT, and I think you should share that with us, Joel, because I really like it.
Thanks. I always say in Cape Town, everything we talk about has to equate to surfing. So if you think of yourself at Muizenberg Beach, you've got yourself, your surfboard, and and the waves. And what we say is that the pestle, the external analysis, that's the sea and the waves. That's things that we can't control, but we have to know about them. So either we can get out of the way of this big wave, or even better, we can use the wave to our benefit. So that's the pestle, that's the external analysis. The SWOT, the internal analysis, that's us and our surfboard. And that really talks to how do we maneuver ourselves in a position either to get out of the way of this huge wave that's coming, or like I said, even better, to get in the way of the wave in the right way so that it can take us on the wave.
Great, thanks, Joel. I really like that description. So that's just it. So now we've got the 3 exercises. We've got that list of opportunities. So you'll have done every element of the pestle. You'll have done the crisis response matrix, and you'll have done every element of the SWOT. So you can imagine you'll have quite a long list of opportunities here. So what we want to do is now really look at where they fit. So we've only got 6 here. You are likely to have lots more, so don't feel that you need to have 6, but we've just got 6 for the sake of the size of the slide. And you're going to list them down there on the left there, and then we're going to pop them into I don't know, we seem to be missing a slide here, sorry. Then they would be popped in there. So for example, something that could be low effort or high impact would be to go on some, go on a digital course. If you're not digitally savvy and you know that your market is requiring that, is to get digitally savvy and find a course that you could do to really understand where to get your product. And that would be low effort with high impact, or get your website built, which would be, low effort, high impact. Or it could be high effort, high impact if you were having to look at going into a selling online model, because there's obviously a lot more that goes into that if you're now selling direct to consumer. And low effort, low impact could be something like a customer communications plan. You could start to communicate with your customers more regularly, but you may feel that actually you're doing quite a lot of that already, and therefore it's not really going to make much difference and you don't want to do it. Or something that could be high effort with low impact could be manufacturing locally. A huge amount of effort, huge amount of investment required, but you don't feel that actually you'd be able to match the pricing, and actually importing isn't really an issue from you because you're not importing from China and it's easy, or something. So those are just to give you some ideas. I don't know if you can think of any here that you'd like to add, but this is really important for you to sort of say, what could I do with the least amount of, and when we talk about effort, it's not just energy, it's investment of time, it's investment of money, and it's obviously investment of where your priorities are. Because if you're focusing all your effort on areas that are high effort with low impact, really then you're missing those really low hanging fruits of low effort and high impact. So, really look at what your business needs and what your customers need, and look for the best areas to get the best outcomes with the lowest amount of input. Okay, so once you've got that, it's really then important to have some timelines against it, because a goal for each of those initiatives is really important. So you may now have whittled it down to, say, 2 low effort high impact and 2 high effort high impact initiatives that you really feel are worthy of taking forward. Also manage your resource. Don't take forward 20 initiatives if it's just you and your business, because the likelihood is it's going to be a plan that is, planning to fail. Really look at what your resource is like and what you have available to you in terms of financial, financials available and all that kind of thing, and time available, and really make sure that you pick the number of opportunities that you can manage. Here I would say, if you've got a massive marketing team and you're a massive business, then obviously you can apportion more responsibility to more people. So just, bear that in mind. So here we've got 4. We've said, for example, develop an online retailer presence by September the 1st. Obviously this was written in August, I think, or July. It's low effort, high impact. Appoint a marketing expertise to develop a plan. It's low effort, high impact. Develop more locally manufactured ranges, high effort, high impact. Expand into adjacent markets. So one of the things you may see as an opportunity is maybe you need to, spread your risk and not just focus on the baby market. And I mean, one example I would say is, back in the Dizzy Dots days, Dizzy Dots was a phenomenal business. It grew rapidly. We had all our ranges in Baby City. We were manufacturing own brands for clicks. We were absolutely flying, and we literally died overnight. It was the saddest story. It was the most expensive learning school fees I think I've ever had, Dizzy Dots, and one of my probably saddest experiences at the end. And really my biggest learnings there was that one of the big brands that we brought in from the UK, they went into liquidation. and we relied on them for about 70% of our turnover through babysitting and clicks. And that knocked us massively. And then we had a huge falling out with one of our biggest retailers, which, you know, and so what I would say is, you know, we were so reliant on 90% of our turnover coming from the largest baby sort of retailer in South Africa. And we were so reliant on this one brand that, although we manufactured our own brand as well, is that our risk just wasn't spread widely enough. So one of the things we could have done was, you know, just unfortunately, the online selling tool wasn't really as big then, and Facebook wasn't a thing, and Facebook selling wasn't a thing really. So we would just kind of almost be before that curve. We were a few years, probably 2 years before the big curve of online selling. But you just have to be aware that you can be, I think our turnover was around 8 million. When we fell, we died with a huge debt. And, you know, we had nearly R1 million worth of stock of this one brand when it went into liquidation in Cardiff in Wales, and we sat with all the stock. I think we've probably still got some in a shed somewhere. So most amazing products, most incredible brand, huge support. We grew massively with MamaMagic and massively with the market as it exploded. But unless you look at your risks and you really assess the spread of it, and if I can leave you just with that, is to really never rely on too much coming from one place. That's a big recommendation for me there. Anyway, so that is now the end of exercise 4. And I think I hand over to Joel now.
There we go. Thank you. Sorry. There we go. Thank you. Okay. So we've now gotten to what we call, I think, at the beginning, the sharp end of the tool. Here we really are going to be talking primarily specifically around marketing. And here we're going to look at how our marketing needs to change given our learning so far. Okay, so before we go on, I just want to very, very briefly touch on the Marketing Centre Framework. So our Marketing Centre Framework really revolves around 4 elements: define, find, win, and keep. Define really talks to branding, strategy, positioning, segmentation. Who are we really, and what do we mean to the different groups of customers who buy our product? Find, looking for new customers, really talks to targeting and lead generation. Win, of course, talks to customer acquisition, and keep to retention. So we often ask the question, which area of your marketing concerns you most? Is it define, find, win, keep? And I'd be very interested to hear from everybody watching. If you had to just look at one area of your marketing, which do you think is the highest priority for you? Which is your biggest concern currently? Feel free to shout out.
Pop it into the chat otherwise, if you like. Maybe.
Or pop it into the chat, 100%. I can't see the chat. Maybe I'll just talk to it. So most of the businesses we deal with, really win is where they are primarily looking to certainly at this time with everything that's gone on, really to look at customer acquisition. So just to show you very quickly how that all falls into, so this is the Marketing Centre Framework. You can see at the top the define, find, win, and keep. And then there are 3 areas. There's strategy, operations, and support. So the define, find, win, keep on the strategic line lives with brand. So define is really talks to the brand. Find is the leads that we bring in. Win is the sales, the acquisition, and keep is retention. And it's at this area really where, you know, the strategy that we've been talking to really becomes action. And because all of these ultimately filter down into actions, into KPIs, into calculations of return on investment for each of the initiatives that Sally spoke about. And I'll explain here how we do it. I saw something flash. I'm not sure if a chat popped up or not, so if we want to. Sorry,
yeah, Joe, we had somebody saying find, so I'm assuming lead gen then.
Okay, fantastic. So
there's no need to us.
So okay, so Sally identified all those initiatives, and again, and we've got tables that we've created. We've got a table for each of the 4. So we've got a table for define, for find, for win, and for keep. And there are 2 important things to say. The first thing is that the tables are bespoke for each person's business. It's not one size fits all. So the way that we work is we sit and we create the tables based on the business and the industry. And the second thing is that we run each initiative through all the tables with a caveat. So we only run them through the tables that make sense. So for example, if we're looking at a specific initiative that talks about brand definition or finding new leads, maybe it doesn't make sense to run it through the retention table. But in principle, we take all the initiatives and we run them through each of the tables where that makes sense. We're also not married to the tables, so the tables change, as maybe a business changes or market environment changes. But really, how we take the strategy and turn it into action is through these tables. So I'll give you a very, very quick run through. So, for example, under define, we talk a lot about brand proposition. We talk about the research and really understanding our market channels. We look at the messaging to the different segments and the different channels. Under find, we look at leads and how to create leads. We rely a lot on data and on understanding, where the fish are and who the right people are to target. We measure our engagement levels, because one of the key things, please, with digital marketing, one of the biggest money wasters in digital marketing we find, are we going to clients and they've just spent 1,000 or 5,000 or 10 or 20,000 Rand on a digital campaign, and what they do is they type up the campaign and they press send and they put in their credit card details. And that's absolutely the wrong way to do it. Where we have our biggest success by far in digital marketing is where we throw a lot of lines in the water. We test different routes to market, different channels, different messaging, different products, different segments for very, very little money. And we throw all of these lines in the water and we measure their conversion rates. And then what we do is we cut out at least 50% of the worst ones, and we look at the ones that are performing well, and we see how we can optimize them and throw them back in the water. And slowly but surely, and all for very, very little budget, we come down to the best performing ones, and then we roll out the digital campaigns. And one really can either waste a huge amount of money doing digital marketing the wrong way, or make a huge amount of money doing it the right way. So we look at that as well in terms of the find table. In terms of win, we look at the alignment of our business behind our sales and marketing team, our pricing strategy, like we spoke about earlier, what those key performance indicators are and how we have to, how they have to perform to make us successful. And then we look at a lot of different things around possibly at-risk customers. So who are our at-risk customers? How do we keep them? Who are our most profitable customers, or our most profitable segments, and how do we sell more to them? We look at issues and metrics around customer satisfaction.
Joel, when we run this webinar, we've run this webinar quite a number of times where we've polls during it. And the one thing that came out was that lead gen was the most important priority for most businesses. But none of them, in all the webinars we ran, I think there was only one person who ticked the fact that a priority for them was keeping customers, retention. And that, as marketers, is quite a painful thing to hear, because it is, we know, much easier to keep a customer than to find a new one to replace them, which is why the baby industry is so hard. But you really need to focus on the existing customers and keep your relationships with them really, really strong as well. Like you ignore it at your peril, I would say.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. I think it is also a function of where we are in that sort of short-termism that a lot of people have been forced into over the last few months. But I couldn't agree more. I mean, in terms of the cost of finding new customers compared to the cost of keeping customers, the current market standard is that it's 5 times more expensive to find a new customer than it is to keep a current customer. So I agree with you. We put a lot of effort on the keep.
Yeah, and really deal with customer dissatisfaction, because
100%.
I used to work with a house builder in the UK a long time ago, volume house builder. They used to build thousands of homes in one area, and they actually used to disconnect the tap in the kitchen, because the first thing you do when you move into a new house is make a cup of tea in England. Well, you make cups of tea everywhere in England, but they love tea here, and it's but they used to disconnect the tap in the kitchen, so that when somebody moved in and they were like, went to make a cup of tea and turned the tap on, there would be no water. And of course they'd be like, we've just bought this brand new house and this is outrageous and terrible and what have you. And they'd call the man and he would be waiting, and he'd be around the corner in his van, connect the tap, and they'd be able to have their cup of tea. And they would be absolutely 400% more delighted with their house than they were before. And it's that kind of, we call it post-cognitive dissonance, which is about the most fancy word I know in marketing, and it's about the only one I know. And but it's really, it's about how you create an even happier customer. They buy a product, they love it, they'll tell their friends. But if they buy a product and they have a complaint or an issue with it, and they get hold of you and you deal with it really, really quickly and really well, I promise you with new mums, it is that word that will spread, because they talk about what they use all the time. They have endless amounts of hours together with crawling toddlers, and where they share experiences. And so where they've had a problem and it's been dealt with really, really well, their experience of your brand will be so much better than even if they'd had a perfect product that didn't go wrong in the first place. So it is that area of dealing with customer dissatisfaction really quickly and really well.
I love that example, 100%. Thank you. Cool. I think that's me. I don't know if there are any other questions. Sorry, Projeni.
Sorry, I think Annalene wanted to share something. Annalene?
Oh, great. I can't see Annalene, but she might be on mute.
Sorry, it's me being technically restrained. Now, I've just seen that referrals work well with us. Like you said, Sally, it is difficult to cling on to current clients. As the babies grow up, you lose them. So what has happened in the past, and I must comment, MamaMagic, that July campaign worked wonderful for us. Thanks again. We've seen so many people coming to us and then referring their friends, their family on products that worked for them. So although their children has grown up, they referred, so their little pool of people, you know, they got babies, and that's how we have seen in this difficult time, we have gathered some clients. So although social media has worked for us specifically, not that much, the campaign really worked for us, MamaMagic, and then the referrals from our existing clients going out to the pool outside.
And as you know, Annalene, in the baby market, when your kids get to a certain point in time and they outgrow something, a toy or an item of clothing, it gets passed on about 6 times, doesn't it? So when we made the Bubba bag, which was the leading baby sleeping bag at the time, you know, that we would get calls saying, I've just been given an old Bubba bag by a friend and I absolutely love it and I need more. And because inside the Bubba bag was our website address, they knew where to come to get more, and they'd phone us and say, I'm like the 3rd person to use this on my baby, and it's still lasting, you know, through the washing machine and being used every night. And so it is that you're going to get in the baby industry, particularly where mums do constantly help new mums as their children get older, so they're passing on your products to other people to experience as well. And that's really important, is maybe that's something you could ask your customers: who have you passed our products on to, and what is their experience been? We'd love to know how long our products are lasting. You know, what is the experience of people out there with 3rd generation products that they're still using of our brand, and still treat them like customers even though they haven't bought from you. You know, if they come and say, my Bubba bag's broken but I'm the 3rd person to have it and I got it free, you know, treat them like they bought it from you, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. There was also some very interesting research, something interesting that came out in the research that we did that was called the Baby City Trip or something like that. I can't remember the exact name, but let's call it the Baby City. And what happened was that, and it actually happened to us when we had our first kid as well, but what happened was that, you know, friends who've had the baby 6 months or a year before, I'll take you on the Baby City Trip because there's so much, you don't know what you're wasting. I'll tell you what you have to buy now, I'll tell you what you can buy, what you don't have to buy, what you can buy later. And it was an actual thing. It was this Baby City Trip, and new moms enjoyed it because now they were sort of passing on the knowledge. So there is 100% that sort of referral system is inbuilt, I think, in this industry to a large extent.
Especially in this market, it is right. Just referral and those brand ambassadors that these moms become. And like, as you said, as they outgrow your product, they want to share and they want to be the one to take you on that trip, you know.
100%.
And we got Pranesin, who's raised his hand again. Pranesin.
Fantastic.
Another question from you?
Oh, no, sorry. I think that was from before. I didn't unraise it.
There we go.
No problem. No problem. But I see Robin's also agreed with you guys here as well. You know, she's talking about moms are really grateful when we fix a problem they have. She says, you know, and most impactful has been the customer service and is quick delivery as well. And in this market, and they really, really appreciate it because, you know, sometimes they don't have the time to plan ahead, and then they realize at the last minute, well, I need this and I need it now. And it's how quickly you can respond to that, and having those systems available to be able to keep that conversation going and respond to them quickly, keep them in the loop.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing I'd say as well is don't limit yourself just to new mums when you think about your communication. Remember, there's a lot of grannies out there who are looking for products to buy, and they, and their memory of what they needed used before and is old or what have you, and they are also looking at what to buy. And particularly in South Africa, I know that grandparents buy a huge amount of what parents use as well, the cots and the capactins and the all that kind of thing. It's a huge investment, so parents generally will help their children out when they're having their children. And so when you're looking at your segments, don't just keep it so narrow that it's just new parents. Maybe look at something where your competitors aren't looking, and it may be grandparents or it may be alternatives. So keep thinking creatively about who your target markets are.
Yeah. Joel and Sally as well, we were really excited because we just launched a new online strategy for our clients, which is a Mama-to-be wish list. So we realized that, they all missed the show because they missed doing the trip. So now we're allowing you to do that trip online, and they go and check all these products out online, and they put their list together, all the things that they want, and it can be as big as ever. And because, baby showers used to be such a big thing, and now it's just so limited. Then once they have that list, they can share it with anybody and everybody, from the grandparents to the rest of the family to the friends. And it introduces them to these new products, and it just gives them some guidance. And there you go, this external market now that's starting to interact with these products that want to buy a product, and not just the mom herself, because she's not always buying everything for herself.
Absolutely. And if they're not getting access to, sorry, I've got a frog in my throat, but if she's not getting access to the shows, to come onto your stand to see how your food machine works, or to understand how the blocks get together, or that kind of thing, that she'll receive it. And it's like getting a box and going, "Ooh, what do I do?" The first thing you do is you go onto YouTube, or you go onto the website, or you go onto Facebook and you just Google how to use X, don't you? And if I have to fix my bike, I just Google it, because I have no idea about how to fix bikes. So that's my go-to, is how to fix the chain, So if you've got videos out there of how-tos for new parents who are receiving your products because of those lists, and getting these wonderful things through, but not being given it by somebody who's used it and said, this is how you use it, because that's how it always worked, didn't it? I'm buying you this because I got one and it was the most useful thing I was ever given, and this is how it works. And that's really exciting. But if you can't have that, then it's about how you almost bridge that gap for them as well. So those how-tos are really good.
And everybody adds videos on the Mama-to-be wish list, by the way, just so you know. So we've allowed the brands to manage their back end. They can have their videos. They can communicate. They know exactly which mom has tipped their product.
Oh, that's fabulous.
They can communicate with that mom because they know that she's showing interest. So they can start talking to her. They can create a conversation. They can run promotions with her. And whenever they do so, it will be highlighted.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I'm going to go and have a look. I might have to recreate Dizzy Dots, Projeni. I'm all excited. I'm not going to be at the Marketing Centre as of the 31st of November.
Well, you can see Pam. I'm sure you remember Pam, Sally, from Baby Bands. She's always been one of our first exhibitors, and she's saying that as well. It was always interesting to hear at exhibitions how mums have handed down the products to their next child, and this is the one big advantage, to have direct customers. And Pam's been with us since 2005 when you guys joined as well.
Yeah, no, I remember very, very well. Yeah, I remember the box, and I remember it all very well. Good old times. I can't remember where we are now. Where are we? Joel?
You're taking over, Sal.
Oh, am I taking over? It's my turn
taking
now.
Over.
Oh, good. Okay, so we're kind of finished, aren't we, really?
Yeah.
So let me just hop through to the right. So carried away chatting. It's been so much fun. Right, let me take the screen back. Right, so hopefully you'll be able to see that on there. So we're kind of done with the workshop today. I've really enjoyed the chat, and we can certainly stay on for a bit longer to chat. I don't know what the time is. We've been going for an hour and a half. Wow, that's gone quickly. So we've introduced you to the Accelerator Framework, which I really hope you feel is something you can use in your business. And I think there've been lots of side conversations as well, which maybe have even been more useful. So that's, I hope, something you'll take away today as well. And what I would say is you need to spend probably a day going through this process, not in one chunk, I wouldn't do that, but particularly if you're doing it virtually with other people, but certainly a day would be a good sort of length of time to do that. And, you know, you need a plan. So we always say, you know, a goal without a plan is just a wish. It won't happen unless you have a plan. And I think this is our experience as marketing experts, really, is that most of the business we go into have had a plan of sorts at some point, but it's being implemented by Joan in accounts and somebody else in operations, and it's a bit like, you know, 3 people owning a cat. It either gets very fat and overfed or it starves to death, and it's never the same way all the way through, because it's one of those things becomes a bit ad hoc and inconsistent, and then it's really difficult to measure what's working, so you end up with a very leaky bucket in terms of your marketing. So we use something which looks a bit like this when we work with our businesses, and it has that sort of the define, find, win, keep down the left, and all the activities that go in there, who's responsible, the timelines against that, so that we know what needs to be done by when, and we can track it all along. And we do this to keep ourselves accountable within the businesses that we work, but also to really drive the marketing and sales through the businesses and to ensure that they stay on track whilst they're dealing with fires in other corners of the business. So this is something we do a lot of. Recreate your own, or we can share something with you that might be useful, but it's just in Excel. It's not anything too complicated, really. And the other thing I would say is that on our website, we have, it's just about to go live, the new Marketing 360. We do have a Marketing 360 report now, but in the next couple of weeks, we've got a brand new revised one going live. And it's a really good, it's about, take you about sort of 10-15 minutes to complete. It's a bunch of questions which takes you through the define, find, win, keep on your own business, and then it will generate a report which will tell you which areas of the business are working really well, where you need to focus more attention, and then it will have hints and tips and further reading on those areas for you. And it's completely free of charge. You can do that. So we'll maybe what we can do as soon as that the new one is live, because it's much better than the existing one, which is a little bit older, we can maybe share that link with you, and Projeni and Warren can send it through to you. So we could do that for you. So really, to unlock the magic of the Accelerator Framework is really, these questions are quite important to sit and ask yourself, really, as a business owner. And that is, you know, how confident are you feeling about putting a plan together? Do you have the internal skills, and can you manage what you are planning? And can you execute it as well as measure it and put those KPIs in place? Do you have the confidence and the ability to do that? And if you don't, we are available to help you. You know, you're really welcome to book a free session with us, and we can do a Zoom chat with one of the marketing directors in the team. Otherwise, you will receive that Accelerator Framework workbook. I think there's going to be a link coming up in the chat now, which will allow you to either book a session if you'd like to, or to just give us your details so we can send you through the workbook. And that workbook's fabulous. And, you know, maybe you want to work through that with your business, you know, on your own through the business. You can sort of see a few of the pages flipping up now. But it is a great resource for you to work through in the business, and, you know, feel free to share it. I think you'll probably get a recording of either today's session or a previous session as well, so that you can rewatch it if there's anything in here that you kind of need to revisit as well. And other than that, it's just really to say thank you. So I'm going to come off share now, just so we can see everybody again, and hand back to Projeni.
Thank you so much, Sally and Joel. That's been really, really insightful. It's, yeah, you know, sometimes we need to be taken back to the basics. And I think that's it is about marketing and running our businesses and running the brands. We get so caught up, like you're saying, in the operational stuff. We get so caught up in doing that we forget to take the time to pause and review all these steps that need to be done. And it needs to be done regularly. And especially considering the environment that we are in now, we realize how much more important it is. And I think, you know, having a conversation with you guys will open new doors for many businesses. And it's really important to have somebody from the outside having a look in, because you see things that we don't. So we really hope that many of you will take up Sally and Joel's offer and have that conversation with them, you know, to help you take your brand to the next level, to help you sustain yourself through these trying times. And through these trying times, you know, what we've done is we've done some research, and we've seen that there has been a baby boom in South Africa. You know, we thought load shedding led to a boom.
All that lockdown time.
Lots of downtime. You know, it seems like COVID has led to an even bigger baby boom. So beginning of next year, we're going to see a large amount of births, probably an unprecedented amount compared to previous years. So that's great for us as an industry, and great for you. So it's important that you're ready for that and ready to optimize on those new mums that are out there, using your existing market to gain that new market. So good luck to all of you. Use the notebook, take the time, sit with your teams, like Sally says, and have a blast. Annalene, is that your hand up there? No. Okay. We thought there's one last comment.
We're really happy to take if anybody has questions, we're really happy to take questions. Otherwise, just fill in that form that's come online, and then we can schedule to chat to you individually as well.
Absolutely. And we'll make the webinar available to you. We'll share the workbook. You're welcome to go onto the Marketing Centre's website. Yeah, I think it's important to go through, listen to this, maybe get your teams to listen to it, and then start the conversation. I think it is really, really so important. And we'll be doing this again. We're going to get more experts to help you through your business. We think that is important. We want to make sure that you're still around next year to sustain yourselves, to be ready to reap the benefits of the baby boom. So thank you very much to all of you for joining us, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Projeni. Thanks, Warren, as well. Thank you for organising today.